in our current day world in society, we have this view that says everything has to be positive all the time. There's all the talk about positive thinking, and to a certain extent, that's true. Dwelling on your negative thoughts, rumination about the past, anxiety about the future, worry, those aren't good habits to develop. But when we do encounter obstacles, when we do encounter challenges, and when we do stumble along our path, it's important to be able to turn those into stepping stones, into a springboard to launch you onto your path. And, I was watching a video by Teal Swan recently, who is a spiritual teacher, I suppose you could define her as. And she raised this interesting point that, in our modern day society, in our culture, we view traumatic experiences obviously as being a bad thing, right? There's all these ideas on how to heal trauma and how to get past it. And a lot of those ideas are contingent upon kind of doing the opposite of what that traumatic experience what came up from that traumatic experience. Like, for example, she gives the example of, there's a couple of examples she gives in this video, but one of them being this guy named Brett. Say this character Brett, he grows up in a household where his family really values discipline and they value achievement, and they're very, very much focused on the perception of others, right? And so he grows up kind of with this environment where he has this conditional love. He receives love and attention when he performs well, when he does well in golf, when he does well in academically, when he gets into the right school, right? So on one hand, you could view this as being, wow, like that's, the kind of the traumatic experience of not feeling that he was truly loved as he was, or truly loved for who he was as a person, but rather this conditional love that was this withholding of love and affection, and unless he got the award, unless he got the result, unless he got the golf, the achievement, whatever it might have been, sports or whatever. But she raises this point that, on one hand, people might say in this traditional way that what he needs to do is just lay down on the couch and watch some TV and live his life then in a way where somebody just loves him for him, I suppose, right? But, what does that even really mean anyway, is the point that she raises. And it's interesting because, yeah, that's, you could go about it that way, but what if actually what he discovers is that he actually likes the discipline? And then he meets a woman and he finds that she actually does give him the love that he missed in his childhood, but he actually, he has a career in golf and he actually enjoys his golf career, and his golf career takes off. And a lot of that has to do because of the discipline that he gained in his childhood because of his upbringing. And he leans into it and he actually has a fulfilling career, and he's actually has kind of an edge on the other competitors because of this trauma, essentially, that he went through. And I think it's a valid point because there's so many times in life where we've been through something in our childhood. It could be later on in life too. It could be in our adult years. But regardless of what it was something that was painful and something that brought up, we all go through these things. And there's different scales on the spectrum. Certain people have had experiences that are extremely traumatic. There's all across the board with it, but we all go through some form of trauma or another. And the interesting thing is that if you look at it from the perspective of being Antifragile, there's that book that's like a best-selling book called Antifragile. You can actually see that this trauma, these traumatic experiences, these stumbling blocks, these challenges that we face are actually making us more and more resilient. And there's a lot of wisdom to be gained from these things. And there's a lot of power that we can actually gain when we transmute those negative experiences into lessons, into something to be, like I said before, a springboard that can propel us, because now we've developed greater awareness. Maybe we've developed enhanced skills. Maybe if we've been through something traumatic with somebody in our life, in a relationship or a friend, and we've suffered through some sort of betrayal, some sort of manipulation. Now we have a better read on people. Now we have a better grasp on things. We've increased our awareness to these things. We've increased our abilities of perception to see through things, to see through people. Maybe we have, through going through grief, through going through loss, we have actually has enabled us to live in the present moment, to value, and it's given us more gratitude for the good things that we have and the positive relationships that we have in our life. A lot of the time you see people that have an easy life, people that have not been through traumatic, very, very traumatic experiences, they kind of lack a maturity to them. They kind of lack an emotional maturity. And of course, it can go the opposite direction too. People can develop defense mechanisms that essentially dissociate themselves so they don't feel anything. And I would encourage you to, allow yourself to feel the emotions. Look at yourself honestly in the mirror and see how you can grow from your experiences, because that is going to lead you to become that person that you were destined to become. And on this channel, leaning into those things, leaning into the suffering that you've been through, but not in a way where you're dwelling on it, in a way where you are using it to take those lessons, to embrace those challenges, and to rise to the occasion that life brings with the obstacles, is going to be profoundly helpful to you to become that best version of yourself. Because as people that are on a path of growth, you have a growth mindset, you want to manifest your dream life, you want to manifest more abundance in your life, whatever you want to call abundance, whatever it is that you want to call it, your dream reality. You want to live, you want to unlock your potential, you want to live in alignment with that higher part of you, that higher self. Well, you're going to be able to do that by becoming that different version of yourself. I mean, that's what we know. We know that we study this stuff, and we come to find out that our outer world is a reflection of our inner world, right? And that is what we have control over, is ourselves. So by controlling the way that we show up, by taking these lessons, by using them to our advantage, that is how we manifest those things in our outer reality. But it's also important to realize that the path to manifesting your outer goals, you on that path, you become the person that naturally achieves those outer goals. And that's the interesting part, is that it's almost like the real gift that you get going through this process is becoming that version, is becoming that person who has gone through this stuff, and you are forging your character. I mentioned this in a recent video, but it's like the pressure that is exerted on coals is what turns those coals into diamonds. And the carving out your character, you are your greatest work of art. Out of anything that you could possibly create in this lifetime, any work of art, any creation, anything that you do, ultimately the person that you become is going to be your greatest masterpiece. And mastery of yourself, mastery of your emotions, mastery of your thoughts, mastery of who you are as a person is going to be the greatest gift as well that you can bring to humanity. Because anything that flows through us, whether we are writing a book, whether we're creating a song, we're creating a work of art, it flows naturally through that person that we are, through that person that we are being. And we're going to create our best work by becoming our best self. Our best self, the result of being our best self, is that that person will naturally have this outflowing of whatever you want to call it. You could call it works of art, you could call it masterpieces, you could call it genius. But when we're tapped in to that state where we are tapped in, turned on, and everything's flowing because we're on our path, we're on our purpose, and we're living in alignment with really what I would say is truth. And because I truly believe that in our current day society, we're losing that truth. We are losing sight of our higher purpose, our higher self. And it used to be that people were kind of, people had more moral guidelines than we do currently in this day and age, and spiritual guidelines, because spirituality and morality are like kind of two sides of the same coin. Because we're all connected, because we are all made of energy, the morality that comes through, there is a morality that comes through that understanding. And there is a, like I said, living in alignment with truth, living in alignment with, the golden rule, and these various different things. There's a lot to that. And I feel like when we don't do that, we are cutting ourselves off from that power. On that scale of consciousness, I posted that recent video, you can see that the lower level, the lower egoic emotions are in that combative state where there's the victim, the abuser, those types of dynamics going on, right? And as you rise up the scale of consciousness, you see that there's oneness, you see that there's non-duality, you see that there is this connectedness, that we are all connected, right? And of course, those works, and that outflowing is going to come naturally from a person that is in alignment with that higher state of being. But the stumbling blocks, they are there for a reason. And like I said at the beginning of this, we are all going to go through challenges. We're all going to go through some sort of suffering. That is just part of the human experience. And when you realize and when you accept that and you know that, now you can come at it from this very mature kind of perspective where you're really coming at it with, this life is a dream, really. And we're going to wake up one day. When we die, probably we're going to feel like we woke up or something. There's like a quote from Rumi that says something along those lines. But I think there's some truth in that. I mean, and we're going to look at our life and look back on your life knowing that you went through those adversities and you turned them into a part of your story that allowed you to pursue that vision, that allowed you to realize your vision, allowed you to realize your purpose. Not something that said, oh, now I just, now I'm relegated to this. Now my self-concept is someone that is, again, like I talked about in the recent video, like a victim, or somebody that is powerless, that is disempowered because of your past or because of your circumstances. Let's take these stumbling blocks and use them as stepping stones. And with that being said, much love as always. Drop this video a like, hit me with a comment, let me know your thoughts on this. Would love to hear your thoughts as always. And with that being said, hit me with a subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.